Hello, this is a revisit to the book Humankind by Rutger Bregman, which I actually listened to as a book on CD, as you see that I'm holding. This was for our September book group, and my Facebook Live event failed, so I did still want to talk a little bit about the book and encourage you to either read it or listen to it. I chose this book for the library book group during lockdown 2020 when I felt so bad about everything that was happening, and it actually turned out to be an excellent choice because it's a very uplifting, positive book. It is nonfiction. The author does deep research and turns on their heads many long-held beliefs in our society and culture. A couple of examples. Lord of the Flies is how humans will behave in a crisis. The actual answer is no. That's not how people behave when we have something bad happening. Humans gather together and cooperate and problem solve. Another false notion that we had heard about in the 1970s, and I was young or old enough to remember this, there was a rape victim in New York City in the 1970s. And the news story at the time was that she was left for dead and no one had lifted a finger to help her. And also that she had been shouting and under duress and no one helped. And that's not the actual truth. Actually, many people tried to help, but the journalists at the time preferred to leave the goodness out of their stories and leave the fear-provoking details in the stories. So that's very frustrating. And one other example is that prisons need to be punitive, when actually, no, again, kinder prisons have better results, including lower recidivism rates. So there was just lots of really good positive ideas in this book from this researcher. I liked this one a lot just for the people who are working every day. Too often people are still treated like robots at the office, at school, in the hospital, at social services. I'm quoting from the book. Time and again, we assume that others care only about themselves, that unless there's a reward in the offing, people much prefer to lounge around. Well, a British study recently found that a vast majority of the population, 74% in fact, identify more closely with values such as helpfulness, honesty, and justice than with wealth, status, and power. However, 78% of the same group feel that others are only self-interested. So it's interesting how sometimes we have this attitude that we're working really, really hard, but other people are lounging around and other people are lazy. And again, he explains in the book that the media has a role to play, and unfortunately, they are guilty of giving us some wrong messages about how we act, and guilty of forming thought processes that actually divide us. And we know that's true. Toward the end of the book, there's just 3 statements that summarized the book, which I really, really liked. First one was, people are deeply inclined to be good to one another. Second one was, be realistic, be courageous, be true to your nature, and offer your trust. And finally, he said, do good in broad daylight, and don't be ashamed of your generosity. So I think those are some really uplifting messages, and I thank you for listening, and keep on reading.